Anderson Cooper is keeping them honest. AC 360, CNN weeknights, 8 Eastern.
The epic football career of Ray Lewis almost ended 13 years ago outside the Cobalt Lounge nightclub in Atlanta, just hours after the 2000 Super Bowl. A fight breaks out, and when the dust settles, Jason Baker and Richard Lawler are stabbed to death, left in the street. Ray Lewis and two friends, Joseph Sweeting and Reginald Oakley, are charged with murder. What unfolded next is a mesmerizing saga, and the truth is as elusive as ever, as you're about to see.
Actually, I haven't been back to this area since that incident happened.
This is the first time Reginald Oakley has talked on camera about that night. Oakley has written a book which we find he's eager to sell.
From my point of view, I think, it was self-defense.
Oakley says he was leaving the club with Lewis when the two victims started arguing with their group. Jason Baker broke a champagne bottle over Oakley's head. Then it was mayhem.
I had no idea that nobody had gotten stabbed or nothing like that.
So you didn't stab him?
No, I didn't stab him.
So how did the guy end up with stab wounds if you're the one fighting him?
Hey, you have to read the book to find out.
After the fight, Lewis and his entourage piled into his limo and sped off.
I was never clear about how two guys end up in a fight with two other guys and two of them end up dead, right? No one's ever convicted, and how they ended up with stab wounds.
If you end up with stab wounds, what does that mean? Somebody stabbed you.
Right. But you're saying you weren't the one that stabbed him.
Correct.
So who could have stabbed him?
You have to read the book and find out if I know or not.
Are you saying you know who did it?
You have to read the book and find out.
There are a lot of people who think you got away with murder, basically.
Well, that's why I wrote the book, to clarify all that.
You know, everyone watching that's going to think this is a really weird answer.
No, it's not. I think it's an appropriate answer. All right.
If that's the way you want to play it.
We'll come back to Reginald Oakley, but there's another element of this story you've probably never heard before. The story of what Ray Lewis was wearing that night. Prosecutors said there was a blood trail, eyewitnesses, and a cover-up of lies that would prove guilt. The limo driver told investigators he heard Oakley and Sweeting admit stabbing the victim. Both men deny this. Other witnesses said Ray Lewis yelled at everyone inside the limo, there were 11 in all, to keep their mouths shut and not say anything, and that my football career is not going to end like this. But the white suit Ray Lewis was wearing that night has never been found. Prosecutors suspected it was stained in the victim's blood and that someone took the knives and suit and threw them all away, which brought us to Ed Garland, Ray Lewis's attorney.
Where's the white suit that he was wearing that night?
It went to the cleaners and was in the suits that were in his closet. The prosecution didn't do the things they needed to do to get access to the suit.
So it exists somewhere?
Well, I don't know that it exists now.
Prosecutors denied our request for interviews about this story. The murder trial crumbled on live television. Witnesses backtracked on their stories. Defense attorneys eviscerated the credibility of many witnesses. It got so bad that prosecutors had to drop murder charges against Ray Lewis in the middle of the trial and offered him a plea deal. Lewis pled guilty to a misdemeanor charge of obstruction of justice in exchange for testifying against Sweeting and Oakley. But even that didn't help. Both of those men were acquitted. Ray Lewis claimed he was the peacemaker, but Oakley says that's not the case.
Was Ray involved in the fighting?
In my opinion, yes. I don't know if he was wrestling, fighting, but I know he was right in the mix there with everybody else.
Because his lawyer and his side have always kind of said, hey, he was trying to be the peacemaker in that situation.
I didn't see that. When the police asked him what happened, he wouldn't, come clean.
He was not involved in the fight. He didn't cause it. He didn't take an act, a step, or a statement to make this happen. He was no more guilty than the other 100 people on the street.
No one has ever been convicted in the deaths of Jason Baker and Richard Lawler. For Baker's uncle, Greg Wilson, it angers him to see Ray Lewis basking in the glow of football glory and redemption.
Redemption? I mean, stop acting like you are one of the people that come out the Bible.
So you think on this day, Ray Lewis knows what happened that night?
Oh, yeah. I hope it haunts them for the rest of their life. until they die and then until they burn in hell.
The most painful irony of all for Greg Wilson is that in a few years, Ray Lewis will likely be forever immortalized in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not far from where Jason Baker and Richard Lawler were laid to rest.